In 1976, Elvis's head of security for 20 years died suddenly. At the funeral, Elvis learned something that destroyed him. Red had stopped 3 assassination attempts over the years and never told anyone, not for recognition, not for praise, just because that was his job. This is the story of the silent hero who saved Elvis's life 3 times. It was March 15, 1976, and Elvis received a phone call that stopped his world. Red West, his friend since high school, his bodyguard for 20 years, his protector and confidant, had died of a heart attack at age 49. Red had been with Elvis from the very beginning. They'd met at Humes High School in Memphis when Elvis was being bullied. Red had stepped in and protected the shy, different kid who sang in the talent shows. That protection had never stopped. When Elvis became famous, Red became his bodyguard, not just a hired employee, but a friend who'd give his life for Elvis without hesitation. Everyone knew Red was loyal. Everyone knew he was protective. But nobody knew just how far that protection had gone. The funeral was held 3 days later in Memphis. Elvis insisted on speaking, though his hands were shaking so badly he could barely hold his notes. Red West, Elvis began, his voice breaking immediately, was more than my bodyguard. He was my brother. He protected me for 20 years. He was there when nobody else was, and I will miss him every day for the rest of my life. After the service, Red's widow Martha approached Elvis. Her eyes were red from crying, but there was something she needed to say. Elvis, there's something Red made me promise never to tell you while he was alive, but now that he's gone, I think you need to know. Elvis looked at her confused. What is it, Martha? Red saved your life, multiple times, and he never told you because he didn't want you to be afraid. He didn't want you to know how close you came to dying. Martha led Elvis to a quiet corner of the funeral home. She pulled out a leather-bound journal from her purse, Red's personal diary that he'd kept for 2 decades. Red documented everything, Martha said quietly. Every threat, every danger, every time he had to make a split-second decision to keep you safe. He never told you because he said your job was to perform and bring joy to people. His job was to make sure you stayed alive to do it. She handed Elvis the journal. There are 3 entries I need you to read. 3 times when Red stopped someone from killing you. 3 times you never knew about because Red handled it before you ever saw the danger. Elvis opened the journal with trembling hands. Martha had marked 3 pages with ribbon bookmarks. First entry, August 12th, 1964. International Hotel, Las Vegas, show night. During sound check, I noticed a man in the second balcony. Something about him was wrong. The way he stood, the way he watched Elvis, the way his hand kept moving to his jacket. I've been doing this long enough to recognize the signs. I signaled to Charlie to keep Elvis on stage, making small talk with the band. I climbed to the balcony. The man had a .38 revolver. I tackled him before he could aim. Security took him away. Police found a manifesto in his hotel room. Obsessed fan who believed if he couldn't have Elvis, nobody could. Elvis never knew. He finished soundcheck, performed that night to 15,000 people, gave them everything he had. That's his job. Keeping him alive to do it is mine. Elvis stopped reading. His hands were shaking so badly he almost dropped the journal. Martha, I had no idea. I never. Keep reading, Martha said gently. Second entry, June 3rd, 1968. NBC Studio Burbank. Elvis is rehearsing for his comeback special. High security because it's network television, but that didn't stop the mailroom clerk who'd been planning this for months. He'd been stealing Elvis's fan mail, building an obsession, convinced himself that he was destined to free Elvis from his demons by killing him. Made it past initial security with a kitchen knife hidden in a lighting equipment case. I saw him moving toward the stage during rehearsal. Wrong posture, wrong pace, wrong energy. I intercepted him in the hallway backstage. The knife was in his hand. We struggled. I took a slash to my forearm. Told Elvis later I'd cut it on some equipment, got stitches, no big deal. The 68 comeback special is being called Elvis's Return to Greatness. Nobody knows how close it came to being a tragedy. Nobody needs to know. Elvis performed brilliantly. That's what matters. Elvis looked at Martha. The scar on his arm. He told me it was an accident. It was an accident that he survived, Martha said, but it wasn't an accident that you did. Keep reading. The last one is the hardest. Third entry, December 31st, 1974. New Year's Eve, Las Vegas Hilton. Elvis is performing his midnight show. I've been feeling uneasy all week. Too many strangers asking too many questions about Elvis's schedule, his routes, his patterns. During the show, I spotted him. Front row, right side. Gun concealed under his jacket. I could see the outline, the way the fabric fell. Former military based on his posture. Professional, not a fan. This wasn't obsession. This was a contract. I couldn't pull Elvis off stage without causing a panic. Couldn't signal security without the shooter noticing. So I did the only thing I could do. I positioned myself in the line of fire. Stood at the edge of the stage between Elvis and the gunman for the entire hour-long performance. If he'd tried to shoot, the bullet would have gone through me first, would have given security time to react, would have saved Elvis even if it cost me my life. The gunman never took the shot. Maybe he couldn't get a clear line with me in the way. Maybe he lost his nerve. After the show, security apprehended him in the parking lot, hired hit, mob-related, something about gambling debts and Elvis's influence in Vegas. Elvis performed an American trilogy that night with such power that people cried. He brought in the new year with 15,000 people singing along. He gave them hope and joy and beauty. He never knew that for 1 hour I was ready to die to keep him alive. That's not heroism. That's just doing my job. Elvis finished reading and couldn't speak. Tears were streaming down his face. He looked at Martha with complete devastation. 3 times, he whispered. Red stopped people from killing me 3 times, and he never said a word, never asked for recognition, never told me how close I came. He didn't want you to be afraid, Martha said. He used to tell me, Elvis's gift to the world is his music, his joy, his ability to make people feel alive. My gift to Elvis is letting him do that without fear. If he knew how many threats we handle, how many dangerous people try to get close, he'd never be able to perform freely. So we handle it quietly. We protect him by letting him stay innocent. Elvis broke down completely. I thought I knew what Red did for me. I thought I understood his sacrifice. But Martha, he was willing to die for me. He stood between me and a bullet. And I never knew. I never got to thank him. He didn't want thanks, Martha said. He wanted you to keep singing. He wanted you to keep being Elvis. That was his thanks. Watching you on stage, knowing he was the reason you were still there. Elvis sat in silence for a long time, holding Red's journal. Then he said quietly, I need to speak at the funeral again. People need to know what Red really was. Martha shook her head. Red made me promise something else. He said if I ever told you about these incidents, I had to make you promise not to make them public. He didn't do it for recognition. He did it because he loved you. Making him a public hero would cheapen that. But people should know. People should know he was loyal and brave, Martha agreed. But the specific incidents, the 3 times he saved your life, Red wanted those to stay private. He said, let people think I was just a good bodyguard. The truth is between me and God and Elvis if he ever finds out. That's enough. Elvis looked at the journal in his hands. Can I keep this? He would have wanted you to have it, Martha said. But Elvis, read the last page. He wrote it last month. I think he knew his time was coming. Elvis turned to the final entry in the journal, dated February 1976. Final entry. February 14th, 1976. My heart's been giving me trouble. Doctor says I need to slow down. Martha wants me to retire, let Elvis hire younger security. But how do I walk away from the only job that ever mattered to me? I've been protecting Elvis for 20 years. I've seen him at his highest highs and his lowest lows. I've watched him struggle with fame, with loneliness, with all the pressures that come with being Elvis Presley. And through it all, my job has been simple. Keep him alive so he can keep giving his gift to the world. I never told him about the 3 times I stopped someone from killing him. Never wanted him to carry that fear. But if something happens to me, if this heart gives out before I'm ready, I hope Martha tells him. Not so he'll feel grateful or indebted, but so he'll understand something important. He thinks he's just an entertainer, just a guy who sings songs. But Elvis Presley has given millions of people joy, hope, escape from their pain. That gift is worth protecting. That gift is worth dying for. I would take a bullet for Elvis without hesitation, not because he's famous, because the world needs what he gives it, because his music matters, because his life has value beyond what he sees in the mirror. If he reads this after I'm gone, I want him to know. Protecting him was the greatest honor of my life. Every threat I stopped, every danger I eliminated, every night I stood guard while he slept. It was all worth it, because Elvis Presley got to keep singing. And that makes the world a better place. That's not heroism. That's just love. Elvis finished reading and sobbed. Deep, wrenching sobs that came from a place of grief and gratitude and guilt all mixed together. He loved me that much, Elvis said through his tears. He would have died for me, and I never knew. I never got to tell him what he meant to me. He knew, Martha said firmly. Every time you walked on stage and gave everything you had to those audiences, Red felt it. That was your thank you to him. You lived the life he protected. You gave the gift he believed was worth dying for. He knew. Elvis stood up, still holding the journal. Martha, I want to honor Red, not by telling these stories publicly, but by living in a way that proves his sacrifice wasn't wasted. He kept me alive for a reason. I need to make sure that reason matters. That's all he ever wanted, Martha said. Elvis spoke at Red's funeral again, but he didn't mention the 3 times Red had saved his life. Instead, he said something that honored Red's silent heroism without exposing it. Red West was the bravest man I ever knew, not because he looked for recognition or praise, but because he did what needed to be done without anyone knowing. He protected people in ways they never saw. He made sacrifices they never knew about. And he did it all because that's who he was, a man who believed in serving others quietly, humbly, without expectation of reward. The world is full of loud heroes. Red was a silent one, and silent heroes are the real ones. Thank you, Red, for everything you did, for everything you were, for everything I'm only now beginning to understand. Elvis kept Red's journal for the rest of his life. He read it often, especially on hard days when he questioned whether his career mattered, whether his life had purpose. After Elvis died in August 1977, just 16 months after Red, the journal was found in his bedroom. Martha was contacted by the estate, and she made a decision Red would have, approved of. She destroyed the journal. Red wrote those entries for himself and for Elvis, Martha explained, not for history or posterity. The 3 times he saved Elvis's life should remain private, as he wished. But the lesson, that true heroism is silent, that the greatest service is done without recognition, that lesson can live on without the specific details. However, Martha did give one interview in 1995 on what would have been Red's 69th birthday. She didn't reveal the specifics of the 3 incidents, but she confirmed that Red had saved Elvis's life multiple times. People ask me if I was angry that Red risked his life for Elvis, Martha said, but I understood. Red believed that Elvis Presley's ability to bring joy to millions of people was worth protecting. And he was right. Elvis touched lives in ways we'll never fully know. Red made sure he stayed alive long enough to do that. How could I be angry about that? The story, even without specific details, resonated deeply with people who work in protection services, law enforcement, and the military. People who put their lives on the line for others without expectation of recognition. Red West's story is every bodyguard's story, said former Secret Service agent David Martinez. We do the job because it matters, not because anyone will thank us. We stand between danger and the people we protect. We make decisions in split seconds that could cost us everything, and we do it knowing that the best outcome is the one where our protectee never knows we were there. The story also became a reminder of the invisible labor that goes into keeping famous people safe. Elvis's audiences saw the performances, the charisma, the magic. They didn't see Red West standing at the edge of the stage, watching the crowd, ready to take a bullet. Fame is visible, said biographer Peter Goralnik. But what makes fame possible is often invisible. The security guards, the managers, the people who handle threats and dangers so the artist can focus on their art. Red West was one of those people. He did his job so well that Elvis never had to think about it until it was too late to say thank you. In 2010, the Red West Memorial Foundation was established by Martha and her family. The foundation provides support for families of bodyguards and security personnel who are injured or killed in the line of duty. Red would have hated having a foundation named after him, Martha said with a smile. But he would have loved the idea of helping the families of people who do what he did, protect others at their own risk. So we honor his memory by supporting the community of silent heroes he belonged to. Today, when security professionals are trained, many instructors reference the principle they call the Red West Standard, protecting your principal so effectively that they never know they were in danger. The highest compliment in the protection business is, "You pulled a Red West." For Elvis, the knowledge that Red had saved his life 3 times without ever seeking recognition changed him. In his final 16 months, people close to Elvis said he performed with a new sense of purpose. After Red's funeral, Elvis talked a lot about legacy, said Charlie Hodge. He'd say, "Red died believing my music mattered enough to protect. I need to make sure he was right." He was trying to live up to Red's sacrifice. Joe Esposito, who took over as head of security after Red's death, said Elvis once told him, "Red stood between me and a bullet. How do I live in a way that makes that sacrifice worthwhile? How do I make sure my life was worth saving?" The answer, Elvis concluded, was to keep giving everything he had to his audiences, to keep connecting with people through music, to keep being the reason Red had considered his life worth protecting. Red didn't save Elvis the person, said music historian Jerry Hopkins. He saved Elvis the gift. He understood that what Elvis gave to the world through his music was bigger than one man's life, and he was willing to die to protect that gift. The story of Red West reminds us that heroism doesn't always look like what we think it should. It's not always loud or public or acknowledged. Sometimes the greatest acts of courage happen in silence. Sometimes the biggest sacrifices go unrecognized. Sometimes the people who save us do it so well that we never know we needed saving. Red West saved Elvis's life 3 times. He stopped 3 people from ending one of the most influential careers in music history. And he did it without ever telling anyone, without ever seeking praise, without ever considering himself a hero. He was just doing his job, protecting someone he loved, making sure the gift continued. That's not just heroism. That's love in its purest form. And sometimes, love means standing between danger and the person you're protecting, ready to give your life, knowing they'll never know you did it. Red West did that for Elvis Presley. 3 times, silently, perfectly, heroically. And only after his death did Elvis understand the full measure of what he'd been given, not just protection, but proof that his life mattered enough for someone else to die for it. That's the greatest gift anyone can give. And the fact that Red gave it 3 times without ever asking for thanks makes it even more precious. Silent heroes are real heroes. Red West proved that, and somewhere in the quiet moments when artists perform freely because security keeps them safe, Red's legacy lives on, not in headlines or history books, but in the invisible work of protection that happens every day, done by people who will never be famous, never be recognized, but who believe, like Red did, that some gifts to the world are worth protecting, even if it costs everything, even if no one ever knows. If this story of silent heroism and the protection we never see moved you, subscribe and share it. Who has protected you in ways you'll never know? Let us know in the comments. Hit that notification bell for more true stories about the invisible heroes who keep us safe.